Broadcasting.
Okay, before we start the meeting, I'd like to make sure that whoever would like to address the board, please fill in the yellow card that is in the back and you can turn it into Mercedes, please. I will call this meeting to order. Oh, I'm sorry. The board just returned from closed session and no action was taken. I will call the meeting to order at 7:01. And roll call. Mr. Bell?
Here.
Mrs. Carroll? Here. Dr. Finley?
Here.
Mrs. Koo?
Here.
And Reina Diaz here. Dr. Emerson?
Thank you, Madam President. Superintendent and Cabinet are available and here this evening with the exception of Mr. Crosby. He is absent this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I will ask Mrs. Koo if you can please lead us in the flag salute.
Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, item 6, may I have a motion to adopt the agenda with the removal of item 14?
Madam President,
Yes, sir.
just a moment on the adoption of the agenda. So at this time, staff would like to pull item number 14,
Okay.
and we do anticipate bringing that item back on the March 3rd board meeting agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, board. I will repeat again. May I have a motion to adopt the agenda with the removal of item 14?
So moved.
Moved by Dr. Finley,
Second.
second by Mrs. Carroll. Any discussion? Any opposition? The motion is carried. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion's carried. Okay, at this moment, we move to item 7, request to address the board. And I will repeat again, if you like to address the board, please, you need to fill in the yellow card. Okay, since I don't see anyone, we move to item A, presentations. Dr. Emerson?
Thank you, Madam President. At this time, we will have a presentation on the Andres Duarte School closure and DUSD boundary study. This presentation will be done by Dr. Joseph Pandolfo from Total School Solutions, as well as the district and staff have Tempest Garland, attorney from Orbach, Huff, and Henderson. And we'll do the presentation and then take board question and answer at the conclusion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. It's a pleasure again here to be at Duarte Unified School District. Tonight we're going to be presenting different options, and this is a review of a board study session. There's one map that's added to this presentation that's a little bit more detailed, so it should maybe tie things in together. So we'll go, and since some of this is a review, I won't elaborate too much on it, and of course if there's questions, I'd be glad to take them then. So let's go to the next slide. So when we're looking at transfer considerations, there's some things that we as a firm look like to make a recommendation to you so that you can do the best thing for the children and students at this district. And the one thing we look at is obviously the current enrollment at Andres Duarte, because those are the students who need to be divided at the district. And that being said, keep in mind that enrollment is always a moving target, because even the enrollment we have now for fiscal year 22, next year is going to roll up, and the kindergarten registration hasn't even taken place yet. So the numbers are not solid. But what you're looking at is trends that there's generally speaking, this many students may be in this location, that location, and those tend to stay about the same over year to year. We look at capacity at the sites. The district has quite a bit of capacity, so moving students from Duarte's to other sites from a capacity standpoint is not a major challenge. We look at distances. How close are the families to the schools, because we want to make the schools as reasonably as close as possible so students can get there. One big issue with Duarte Unified is just trying to balance the north and the south, because there's just naturally, with the way that the boundaries are drawn now, there's a natural imbalance between the north and the south, and the schools can all be better if they're all have robust, appropriate enrollment. So that was something else we looked at. We're also looking at major boundary issues like freeway underpasses, traffic arteries. How does that fit into what's logical to set up boundaries for? The ultimate goal is really, when something like this is done, it's really to benefit the students and the educational outcomes of the students. So we're looking at things too, like, are the schools a reasonable size that we can avoid combination classes, and that we can, enhance programmatic opportunities for all the students in the whole district. So those are some of the considerations we're looking at for. Next slide, please. So this is a map of the Andres Duarte school boundary in black. That's the outline of it. So you can see stretch from one side of the district, and where 1 is listed all the way to 3C. So it was divided into 3 major categories, 1, 2, and 3, and then the sections 2 and 3 were subdivided to section 2 into 2 categories, A and B, and 3 into 3 categories, 3A, 3B, and 3C. So all the options you're looking at for Andres Duarte and where to put them basically are some derivation of this map, and assigning some of those boundaries to different school sites. So that's good to keep in mind as we're walking through this, because this was the logic, and you can see that the boundary lines were drawn here in logical places, basically major arteries for the school district for roadways. Okay, next slide, please. So here is option number 1. So you can see, and we went over this last week in detail, so I'll just, again, be brief with it. But basically with this, Valley View and Royal Oaks, that section in section 1 is assigned to those schools over there, and that's consistent throughout all the studies. So the other, and then the rest of this is divided up. There's in 2A and 2B, or 2A, I'm sorry, goes to Royal Oaks, 2B to Beardley, 3A and 3B to Beardley, 3C goes to Maxwell. So that's basically how this map is divided up. Some of the challenge with this first map is just that the enrollment is already pretty robust at Royal Oaks. So this is adding a couple of sections to Royal Oaks that are going to make the enrollment a little stronger there as well. So we go to alternative 2, please. Well, here's a table. So you can see there's a table that follows all of these maps, and you can see that the capacity is the first column. In this school, and that's from the architect. When the architect does an evaluation, how much can each school, what's the capacity of each school, and then you can see what the enrollment was, and then what the net loss and gain was based on this change, and then what the post-transfer enrollment is, and all the schools are well under capacity still, because as we've been saying, the school's in declining enrollment, so it did actually house a lot more students than it housed now. So making these transfers is not going to impede the capacity of the schools. Okay, next slide, please. So here's alternate number 2, and the big change with this one is it transfers, the Royal Oaks area between Pops Avenue and Mountain Avenue that lies between Huntington Drive and 210, and there's 36 students at the time of this that was looked at, and that transfer would be to Beardsley, and the obvious benefit of that is trying to balance the district in terms of enrollment for each school site. So the area 1, like I mentioned, is still Valley View and Royal Oaks. 2A goes to Royal Oaks, and then 3A and B are to Beardsley, and 3C is to Maxwell. So this is alternative 2. And then this table for 2, and again you can see that there's there's ample capacity at the sites. And especially since the district is projected to continue declining enrollment, there'll be even more capacity at the sites. Next slide, please. Okay, this is alternate 3. And this one changes area 2 to Beardsley. So you can see Beardsley's a little bit bigger. And it also makes some changes. So it transfers the Royal Oak students between Pops Avenue and Buena Vista to Huntington Drive, and 605 to Beardsley. And those are current Royal Oaks boundaries. And it changes the Royal Oaks boundaries between Buena Vista and Mountain Avenue that lies between Huntington and 605 to Maxwell. Okay, so it's what this map is attempting to do is trying to pull more students into the southern part of the district to try to help balance the enrollment there. Okay, and next slide, please. And then of course it's the same. Those are looking at the new enrollment. You can see the post-transfer enrollment, which numbers are probably going to be high for next year, since again the district's declining in enrollment. But those are the numbers, and you can see a little bit better balance there. Okay, and then alternative 4 is basically the same at 3. It does change a little glitch that's in the Beardsley Maxwell area. That's closer to Maxwell, but it's in Beardsley's boundary. So this one attempts to try to straighten that boundary out just for logistical reasons. So those are the 4 alternatives. Next slide, please. Here's the map again. So you can see that the balance gets a little bit better with these latter couple of slides for the schools. Okay, next slide, please. Yeah, so that was that's the study that was done to try to give some options to the board for the boundaries, and I'd be glad to answer any questions if there are any.
Okay, board members? This is the time for questions, so.
All right, I'll start off. So if a parent, again, we see there's a lot of space still and a lot of, I don't know if it's on still. Can you hear me?
Just move it closer.
Okay. So if a parent, I think it was one of the questions I asked before, a parent wants to pick and choose the school that they prefer, what we're seeing still, it's a possibility they're going to get what they want. If they decide even though they say, okay, they're going to Royal Oaks, for instance, but they prefer Valley View, or Royal Oaks prefer Beardsley, can the parent, I know we have, the parents here have a choice. So I guess my question is, there's the chance that we have space in pretty much all the schools at this point.
Yeah, and I'll let Dr. Emerson address that question.
Yeah, so the initial assessment determined the max capacity that exists at each school. And because that max capacity that exists at each school shares with us that we have a lot of room to accept students. And so with these boundary adjustments or changes, it's reasonable to think that if a family wanted to stay enrolled at a school, even if their boundary changed, we still have our intra-district transfer process. We still have choice as a significant value for the community and for the district. And so we would work with those families in the event that a boundary changed and that their school was reassigned, because we do think that there's capacity and ability to meet those needs and meet those requests.
Okay.
Regardless of which map the board adopts.
Okay, thank you.
Board?
I'll ask, how will the families, sorry, it's okay. For families who will be affected by this boundary change, how are they going to be communicated with?
So the first thing, once the adoption of a map is done, that is this evening, we have messages that are going to go district-wide messages to explain the action that the board has taken tonight. And then after that, a subsequent series of personalized letters will go to each family that's impacted, giving them information about the change, about the timelines, next steps, information about intra-district transfers, and then also messages that will go about the transition process, the transition activities at the new receiving schools, new student orientation, onboarding, coffee with the principal, et cetera, et cetera. All those events and information will be included in a series of letters that will go out to families that are impacted by the change.
Thank you.
Dr. Pandolfo, so if you could go back up to the first map that sort of shows the current boundaries of Andres Duarte. So in this case here, there are probably, for example, families that maybe live in the 3C area currently that would be reassigned to either Maxwell or Beardsley, depending on what map is selected. Their commute to school presumably would have gotten shorter, but that's not going to be true for every family. So my question is or I guess in the analysis of these different maps that were presented, was distance to travel taken into account in drawing some of these boundaries?
Yes, that's certainly something we looked at, and I think you mentioned it. You mentioned that if you look at the map and see where the star is, that's the location of Andres Duarte's elementary school. So likely, anyone in 3C and 3B will be closer to their new school. And of course, people who are close to that area 1 are going to have a longer distance. No matter what the change, because the school is right there. But yeah, that was something we looked at and tried to make the assignment of schools reasonable for all the families, knowing that it's there's no perfect choice.
Thank you.
Madam President?
Yes, go ahead.
I just have a question. Dr. Amerson?
The microphone. Close the
Okay. Dr. Amerson?
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, that's it.
I know that each one of the schools have a theme. How much opportunities do the Andres Duarte families have if they have a certain theme that they want to go to one of the other schools that maybe we would want to say we want to select for them? Do they have any other alternatives?
So again, when the competitive advantage plan was designed and campuses were rebranded around a thematic approach to instruction, that was kind of well publicized across our community. However, with that being said, there is a time and an opportunity now as a result of a consolidation of one school and the other 4 schools who have remaining kind of thematic approaches to them to re-emphasize, reshare, re-educate, if you will, about the value propositions at Beardsley's Dual Language Immersion Academy, at Maxwell International Baccalaureate Academy, at Royal Oak STEAM Academy, and at Valley View Creative Technology and Innovation Academy. So some families may not realize what opportunities and options are available to them because they just were continuing to go to their neighborhood school. And so I think it's an opportunity for us to educate and share. And then again, let families select what they think their student would be most engaged with and feel most like home. So we certainly will use an opportunity to share those types of information. And I think some of the activities that we will do at the receiving school sites to orient and share and kind of showcase that information will be helpful in helping folks to select a campus.
Can I ask you just to explain what Maxwell has an IB program? Can you explain exactly what the IB program is?
Yeah, so the International Baccalaureate Program is it's a framework. It's a way of teaching the curriculum from an international perspective. And so Maxwell was authorized several years ago as a primary years program, which means that they went through the academic rigorous process of being certified by the International Baccalaureate Organization to be able to teach that curriculum. What that curriculum allows them to do is to have that World School designation. There are probably, I would say, less than 200 IB schools in the state of California for the primary years program, and there are probably less than 100 that are both the primary years and middle years program, which currently Maxwell is going through the authorization process for. It's rigorous. It is a hard process. It's a long process that takes multiple years, but then it provides students a wide breadth of experiences from an international perspective that really, really gives them an opportunity to really go deep enrich in critical thinking, inquiry, and all the different things that we want our students to have and use as skills as they go out into the world. So I think that Maxwell has done a fantastic job of kind of embracing the IB methodology, and I think that our students there are thriving because of that framework. So that's Maxwell. I could do the same thing for the other schools if you'd like.
And then I had a question. How soon can parents expect like the change to happen? Like if the boundaries affecting them, how soon?
Yeah. So with the board's decision on this, if the board adopts a map this evening, these changes would go into effect at the end of this academic school year. So for the 2022-2023 school year, there would be a new map and new boundaries for families. So it would go into effect for the start of the next school year, and we would start to communicate and message that out starting tomorrow if the board takes action tonight.
You know, I think sometimes the feeling, or maybe even the information may have been maybe put out a different way, but could you at least talk about why we're doing this? AD is not a bad school, and there was no problem at that particular school. Could you really remind people why this change had to come, as far as why AD was the closing of AD? So,
Yeah, absolutely. I know that that folks in the room may or may not have been here in 2016 or even in September of this year. But there was a long conversation about the challenges and the finances that were happening across the district. So in 2016, an RPAC process, the 711 committee, was convened. Recommendations were made to the board about potentially closing a school. At that time, the board made the decision not to close a school and to actually table and put that recommendation on ice for 5 years. That was in 2016. In September of 2021, we brought the information back and moved forward with the discussion, and the recommendation was to eventually close Andrus Duarte at that time. But this has been a long conversation. It is not something that just started or originated this year. It has been going on for several years.
Thank you, sir.
How many students exactly are we seeing that they be transferred to a different school?
So based on the current enrollment at Andrus Duarte, we're looking at approximately 300 students that would need to be reassigned to receiving schools.
How about the percentage of the students that are they are enrolled to be in Andres Duarte, but they request the inter-district permit? So
the vast majority of students attending Andrus Duarte live within the Andrus Duarte boundary. I would say probably to the tune of more than 80 to 85%. Don't quote me on that number. That's just a rough estimate. And then there's about 15% that operate on an intra-district transfer that may live in other district boundaries for district schools. But the vast majority of students lie within the defined area that you see on the screen.
I see. Okay. And how about those students that are in the Andres Duarte area and are right now in different schools and in the intra-district permit? What's going to happen with them?
Yeah, so if students are, and this goes to, I think, one of the questions that was asked earlier, we again believe we have sufficient capacity at all of the receiving schools to, if a family wants to remain at a school they're already on permit at, they can remain at that school and on that permit.
I see. Okay. Okay, board members, any other comment? Okay. Did you have anything to say? That we're going to allow them to speak on the issue?
I want to make sure that, just take a moment to just kind of explain. I know that there are some folks in the community who would like to engage in a question and answer. Unfortunately, it's a board meeting. So it's a meeting of the board in public, but not a public meeting. And so there were opportunities along this process and along this path to get feedback, to have questions and have answers. Tonight, we're in a decision-making mode at this point in time. So I just don't want people to feel slighted. It's just, it's the way the process works.
Feedback and comments regarding this. We have questions ourselves too. As parents, we have questions regarding the numbers and all of the slides. We do have questions ourselves, and that information wasn't given in the other board meeting.
Actually, just to clarify, the board did have a study session last week where all of this information was shared. So the information did go out, so I just wanted to share that, Madam President.
Let's just talk about it now. You're not giving us a chance to speak. That's rude. These are our kids. You should care about them.
Uh,
Care about our concerns.
I did mention before the meeting twice that if you like to address the board, to please fill the yellow card that was in the back.
We didn't have the information beforehand. How do we know what we're gonna ask? We're waiting for him to present his information so that we can submit our questions.
We have questions for him, not
Who asked questions at the beginning? This is information we're asking after. This is new information to us. So we're asking now. And we're wasting time going back and forth when you guys just let the man ask his question, straight to him. He's not even asking you guys.
It is, like we say, it is a public meeting, but not to be responding questions. It was last week.
Here's the thing. You're saying it's a public meeting. Y'all post this there for parents to come out here and to help to discuss things. These are not your children whose lives that are being disrupted. These are ours. These are our kids whose lives are being disrupted.
Give us their voice.
So you want us, you invite us out here to hear whatever you is that you will have to say. Great. Now, we as parents, we should have a voice because our lives, our kids' lives are the ones that's being disrupted. Not you all. You all go about your merry way at the end of the day. We don't get to do that. I have a child there who can't have the time because she doesn't know where she's going, what she's doing, how she's going to go to another school where she don't know anybody. She gets sleepless. She can't sleep because she's worried about what's going to happen when they close down the school. You all have these worries. I do. Then up at night with her.
I do care, and I will tell you that if
People from 3C have no problem driving all the way to that little Green Star over there. If they wanted to change schools, they would have filled out an inter-district form and took their kids somewhere else. But they're at Andres Duarte because Andres Duarte does take care of their kids. They take care of our kids.
I appreciate your comments. We are out of order, and I will continue with our board meeting. And I believe that our kids are priority, and it's not just Andres Duarte, it's every school, and unfortunately, many,
Closed. The Andrews Board is the one that's closed.
it,
Other school is still staying open.
unfortunately, every single district, not every single district, but a lot of districts and surrounding areas are going through the same situation.
Monrovia is not.
Always advocating students. Why are you gonna close a school that's named after the city? That's ridiculous.
I just gonna continue with the board meeting, and I am sorry. Okay. Okay, board members, at this time, I need to,
Thank you, Jessica Flores.
and I would like to, hear the motion of the map that we will approve tonight. And before we continue, I just like to address, recognize that Veronica from Assemblywoman Blanca Rubio is here with us. Thank you for being here tonight. And I will ask the board at this time to approve the boundary map to be implemented beginning with 22-23 school year. And I need to know what area map number to be implemented beginning with.
Madam President,
2022. Yes,
just to
sir.
clarify, so at this time, you would entertain a motion for one of the map options if any of the board members are inclined to make a recommendation of a specific map.
Thank you. I need a motion to see that what map number we will be approving.
Okay, so I motion to approve boundary area map number 3 to be implemented beginning with the 22 to 23 school year.
Marcelo, if you can do us a favor, and can you put that map on the screen for us, please? I'll tell you which one. Not that one. Nope. Go back one. That one. That is. Look at the bottom of the slide. It's map number. It's map number 3. Thank you, Marcelo.
So the motion was for alternative number 2, but map 3.
That is correct.
Okay.
And CC make the motion. And
Second.
I need second. And Mr. Bell second. Any discussion? Any more comments?
Madam President.
Yes, sir.
Just before the board takes a vote, I just want to say a couple of the comments that I made at last week's study session, which were, there's never going to be a perfect map. We understand that this is not an easy, it's not an easy process. There's a lot of emotion that go into it. And there's a lot of work that went into trying to come up with a map that took into account the distance families would have to travel. It took into account trying to balance out enrollment as much as possible. It took into account trying to keep, communities kind of intact to the best that we can. But there is no perfect map. And so I just wanted to make sure that we kind of remember that our intention here is to do our best to increase enrollment at all of our schools and to try to create more dynamic programs and services for all of our students at all of our schools that are remaining in the district. So thank you for the opportunity to make that comment.
And thank you for that comment, but I want a little bit of clarification. Our intention to transfer the kids, but not the reason to close the school.
I'm not sure if I understand the question.
Maybe when you just mentioned that our intention is to increase the enrollment at schools, but when we make the decision to close Andres Duarte, that was not the reason. It was our budget, our expenses, and all that. So I just want to make sure that the community understand that we are doing transferring students, and that was the low enrollment.
Correct.
Everything that was contribute to make the decision to close the school was unfortunately was the only way that we need to work with the budget, work with different reasons, but not to transfer kids, only to increase the other schools' enrollment.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. That's correct.
Thank you. There is any other discussion? Okay, since no discussion, I will ask the board to, by name, Mr. Bell, are you in favor?
Yes.
Mrs. Carroll?
Yes.
Dr. Finley?
Yes.
Mrs. Koo?
Yes.
And Reina Diaz, yes. The motion is carried. Moving to item number 10, adopt resolution 162122 approving the realignment of the district attendance boundary. May I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Moved by Mr. Bell, second.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Carroll. Any discussion?
Yes, Madam President. So
Okay.
what is the difference between these two different items that we just voted on?
One is it's programmatically a map. The second is a resolution, which is the actual annotated board action that's actually occurring.
Thank you.
Any other question? Any other question? No? Okay, since none, I will call by name. Roll call. Mr. Bell?
Yes.
Mrs. Carroll?
Yes.
Dr. Finley?
Yes.
And Mrs. Koo?
Yes.
And Reina Diaz, yes. Okay, moving along, item 11, award contract to construction services for the Duarte High School new tennis courts, project Division 1, general construction bid number 2122-DU-066 to Crane Warren Incorporation, DBA Sandalwood Construction. May I have a motion?
So move.
Moved by Mr. Bell, second.
Second.
Second by Dr. Finlay. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carried. Item number 12, award contract for construction services for Duarte High School new tennis courts projects Division 2, demolition and grading BID number 2122 DUH 066-2 to Crew Incorporation. May I have a motion?
So move.
Moved by Mr. Bell. Second.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Koo. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item number 13, award contracts for construction services for Duarte High School new tennis courts project Division 3, electrical bid number 2122 DUH 066-3 to Floyd Alton Electric Incorporation, DBA Integrated Communications and Data. May I have a motion?
So move.
Moved by Mr. Bell. Second.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Carroll. Any discussion? I do like to ask you, Dr. Emerson, how are we approving all these contracts and we are closing one of the schools?
Thank you, Madam President. This is a question that often comes up within school finance, going all the way back to when I was a high school principal. There are a number of different budgets that happen on a campus and throughout a district organization. There's a general fund, and then in some cases, there are other funds and other buckets of money that come to the school district. Most notably, in this particular circumstance, we have a school bond, a modernization bond, that was approved by the voters of this community in November of 2020. That is what is funding these projects that are happening at the high school. It is out of the bond. It is not related to our general fund. When we made the decision to consolidate a school site, that has a direct impact on the general fund. However, these contracts that are being approved do not, because they are not out of the general fund. They are out of the bond fund.
Thank you.
Did you take your vote, Madam President?
I'm sorry. I didn't. Thank you. Okay, it was a discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 14 was the item that was pulled from when the agenda was adopted. I move to item 15. I need a motion to adjourn the meeting in memory of Robert James Ware, father of Royal Oaks teacher Teresa George. May I have a motion?
So move.
Moved by Mr. Bell.
Second.
Second by Dr. Finlay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Board.